Now a cloud hangs over the global market activity on the first day of the new week of trade amid continued reaction to the U.S. Federal Reserve's hawkish statement that more interest rates are needed to fight high inflation. China, on the other hand, reporting COVID-19 deaths since May. It has also brought nerves to world markets, fearing a return to a hard lockdown after a recent announcement that that country will be easing these regulations. Independent markets analyst Karl Gevers joining us now to give us a quick run of how the JSE is performing in early trade. Karl, good morning to you. So let's start with commodities. Gold has inched down while the dollar has edged up amid that focus on the U.S. Fed hints. Tell us what is expected in today's overall performance.
Yeah, good morning, Koli. Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, there is, the constant sort of grappling with the rising interest rate cycle and obviously that impacting the economic growth prospects. And that's all to fight inflation. So the hawkish comments by the Fed in the last week have, discouraged investment into non-interest yielding assets like gold. And hence gold has been a bit weaker, and obviously it's supported the dollar. So because the dollar is more attractive to hold when you're earning a higher yield on that. So I think that's continuing. So the dollar being slightly stronger and putting pressure on commodities in general, and gold currently trading at $1,745 per ounce.
Let's talk about the likely impact when it comes to China, that country reporting COVID-19 deaths, and it's on the back of that very same country announcing that they were going to ease regulations. Karl, what does this mean with these latest COVID-19 deaths?
Yeah, so there were hopes that the Chinese would start easing their restrictions. They've had quite strict COVID protocols still with, isolated lockdowns in various towns and cities. So these deaths are the first deaths since May, and there are fears that China will tighten its COVID restrictions again, and this would lead to pressure on growth. We saw the Chinese numbers not looking that great in the last reporting period, and they're a big player globally. So I think this pressure will have a negative impact on markets, and we saw the Chinese, or at least if we look at Hong Kong, the Hang Seng was down about 2% today. And if we look at our markets, we'll certainly be impacted negatively by that. We saw the Australian commodity-based market under pressure, and our market down this morning. Also Tencent being a big player, a big impact in our market through Naspers and process, putting pressure on our market.
Let's focus the attention on the Rand for a bit, Karl. The Rand giving up the recent gains that it made before the ratings agency S&P Global, affirming South Africa to still be in junk status, although retaining a positive outlook.
Yeah, so the Rand actually strengthened to about 17.20 to the dollar on Friday on the back of that news. The fact that they're remaining with that positive outlook. But since, the macro factors have taken its toll, and the Rand weakening back to 17.35 to the dollar. And that's, again, mainly, as we talked, a stronger dollar impacting that. But also the local news, the load shedding, that where we're going to stage 4 and 5, and a bit of pressure on, as we read about the diesel stocks. So I think the overall, the biggest concern by the rating agency was actually the global, any global negative impact, so economic growth and so on. So I think we're still being really, at the mercy of the global environment.
Let's then talk company news, and we begin with Astral Foods. Their annual financial results are out. How's their performance?
Yeah, so I mean, they did guide towards the end of October, did guide where they would end up, and I think they're pretty much in range there. Pretty strong results if you look at where they came from, which is off a lower base. which was in the lockdown environment. So revenue up 22%, headline earnings per share up 125%. So the dividend also up just short of 100%. But I think for Astral, the risks are that they are experiencing high feed costs because we saw the food commodity prices going up, and that's a big component of their operating cost. And they've been struggling with the power disruption. So they do indicate that going forward that'll put big pressure on their margins. So the share price reacted on the update, but today marginal change.
Let's conclude the conversation with Barlow World, and their results are also out. How are they faring?
Yeah, also a pretty decent result. The continuing revenue up 15.4% and headline earnings per share from continuing operations up 16% to 10 Rand 96. I think the big news there is there's a special dividend of about 5 Rand 50. I think the market would like that. And then they did announce the planned unbundling of Zeda, which is their Avis budget car rental and leasing business. So that should be done by mid-December. So the share price reacted quite positively on that, up 4.5% this morning.
Karl Gevers, independent markets analyst, thank you very much for that markets update. Well, let's say